And through all that time, I tell God, I get angry at him, and I'm like, why are you doing this to me? I literally been in church since I was 13 years old. I served in every ministry that you could possibly think of in that church. I've done everything you ask me, and then you put me through all this crap. Like, I get so mad at him. And then when I get mad at him, I leave the church because I think it's him. It's his fault that he made me go through this, when in reality it was me.
So, since this is Victor's friend, he's my friend too now, but we just met, and Victor knows him much better than I do, so I'm going to let Victor take the lead on this one. So, have at it.
All right. Well, everyone, God bless. I hope you're having a great day or night wherever you're sitting viewing this from. But this is my brother. This is Mario Loja. Mario.
How you doing, everybody?
We get the honor and privilege to be able to interview him and hear his story. His testimony is one that has touched my heart, and I'm sure it's going to be able to touch yours as well. So, Mario, let's start off with what was it like growing up?
Oh, man.
Tell us the story about your life as when you were a little one.
All right, so I am Mexican Ecuadorian, so of course we were raised Catholic. That's the way, just I guess all Mexicans are raised. We about Virgin Mary. So I didn't get to know Christ until about I was 13 years old. So growing up was every Sunday Catholic. Nothing against them. It was, but not my thing at that time. And I was still young. You know, we don't know anything. We just follow mom and dad. But yeah, Catholic was the way to go back in the days, man. That's all I knew. But then when I became a Christian at the age of 13, that's when everything changed, and it was a better experience for myself in a church environment.
Okay.
Yeah.
So before we get a little bit too far ahead, at the age of 13, obviously you were raised Catholic.
Yeah.
But at 13, you shifted to Christianity.
Yeah.
Who did it? How did that happen? I mean, paint that for us.
So we lived, the church that we went to, that I've been there, I grew up there, was we lived about 3 blocks away. So we passed by there every single time. And then, you know, this is something personal that I don't share with many people, but my uncle was sick. He was very, very sick. I was still young. I don't really remember that much. I just remembered him being in my bed. And he was very sick, and I had to go sleep with my sisters. And then when he left to go to the hospital, like, they flipped my mattress, and I always remember that because I always thought it was weird. But I'm like, why are they doing this? But he was very sick, and my mom was trying to find answers and trying to find comfort in knowing that her brother might be dying. And as we were walking, just, you know, showing around, we only lived 3 blocks away. Somebody from that church stopped her and just said, "Hey, I want to pray for you." And then prayed for my mom and my dad, and then we just started going there. Like, it was crazy. We just thought God just called us to that place, and we never left.
Good. So how long from 13 to what year, or what age?
What age of?
Did you stop going to that particular church?
About maybe 3 years ago. So what happened was, to track back a little bit about my uncle, he ended up passing away. We never knew what it was that he got sick, because at that time it was a little too, we couldn't talk about what he was dying of. But I, to this day, thank him, because he led us to Christ. You know, even after his death, he still helped us out. You know, we found out years later, after we all grown up, that my uncle died from AIDS.
Okay.
So it hit us hard, but at that point now, when you become a Christian, you understand it better. You know, if we knew at that point, we wouldn't have got it. We would have been so mad, and we'd be like, "What is this?" But now, as a Christian, years later, we're like, you know what? I thank him. Even though he died, I thank him, because I got led to God. You know. But yeah, it was 27 years in that church. It was a wonderful church. It was a beautiful church. I grew up there. I learned so much. My Christian walk began there.
So could I ask how you experienced salvation?
So
with the Catholic Church, I know you pretty much say your
whatever's in the
right,
book,
right.
And you repeat everything that's all set
but
for
then
you.
someone leads you to salvation.
Correct.
So
Then you know,
story?
yeah, because you don't have a personal relationship with God.
Right.
You know, you're just reading a book, and you're just saying whatever the priest says. But at that point, I believe, you know, when you're 10 to 13, you know right from wrong.
Right.
You start experiencing different things as a young man, and I don't know. I just as soon as I got to that church, I became hungry for what they were saying. I'm like, who is this Jesus you're all talking about? So I was literally, I got there at 13. By the age of 14, I didn't care about anybody. I was just focused on God, praying on my own, reading the Word. I preached at the age of 14 at my church.
Wow.
I was really a kid that was on fire for God. And of
That's
course,
awesome.
like always, when you get older, you start worrying about other things. And I fell for a little bit and always found my way back. But it was one of those roller coaster rides that everyone always has as a young age.
I have a
But,
similar story. So
Yeah.
people that know this podcast, they know that
yeah,
I got saved when I was 14, and then 18 came around,
Yeah.
life happened,
yeah,
I backslid, came
Yep.
back to God.
Yeah.
So, yeah, similar story.
yeah. So that's what I always struggle with. It was, it's one of those things where you question a lot. You question God a lot, and anything that bad that happens to your life, you just want to be like, I'm out. I'm out of church.
Yeah.
Why am I even in this church? God, why are you doing this to me? When in reality, He gives you free will. You're the one that got yourself in that mess.
Right.
There was a disconnect between you and God, and that's the reason why you're in this mess, because you were putting women or your job or money first,
Right.
and that's what happened. In my case, a lot of that was materialistic stuff and worrying about what I can get next instead of having that relationship with God when I first started at 13.
Yeah.
Okay, so 27 years at at your last church.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that in those years, I mean, a very strong community was built.
Yeah, very strong.
How important as a Christian is community to you?
You need that. I don't care who says you don't need church. I know nowadays you hear people saying, I don't need to go to church. I can watch God, which is great. It's amazing that you can watch God on TV, or you can watch the preaching live on TV, or even here with New Life. I'm glad that we do have that for some people that can't make it for any reason.
Right.
But you need that brotherhood. You need that relationship with your brother.
Yeah.
So then that way, if I'm going through something, I can call you and say, hey, Vic, I'm going through this. So that way, hey, hold me accountable. Because I travel a lot, and as a married man that travels a lot, you get tempted so much. So I can pick up that phone call and be like, Vic, I gotta talk to you personal. Hey man, I'm going through this. Can you pray for me? Can you hold me accountable and say, hey, don't do this, Mario. You got this beautiful thing back here. That's not worth it. But you also need that community to help you grow in manhood as well.
Yes.
As brothers. There's some things that I might be struggling with that you probably went through, and you know how to handle it well.
Amen.
And you know how to guide me instead of me just hiding that. I was talking to a good brother of ours, Robert. Robert said that men struggle in silence,
Absolutely.
and we don't talk about some of the deep stuff that we go through because we're ashamed of it. But yeah, I think community is very, very huge, and I think churches that have like small cell groups or even like activities at church, and here we have men's groups, and then we have marriage things, and I think that's amazing, and it helps. We have a lot of them. There's people that, like yourself, you say you're not very person that talk a lot,
Right.
so you're kind of like, I don't like going to this because then I got to talk to all these different
Yeah.
type of men, and I got to share what I got to share, but it breaks that shell.
Right.
And then look at you now. A guy that didn't want to talk, and now you're hosting your own podcast. That's only God.
Glory
can do
to
that.
God.
Yeah.
Only God can do that.
Well,
God be the glory.
I've been going to churches for years, but when
Yeah.
I first came to New Life, I knew from experience, like I had to come to Wednesday nights to meet people, because the church service, there's so many people.
Yeah.
It's easy to just come in,
Yeah.
do your Christian duty and hear the word,
And then-
worship a little bit, and
then
take off and
take
go
off.
home.
Yeah.
But to really get in, you have to start meeting
Yeah.
people. So
Yeah.
I knew right away. So I started going to Bible studies right away, and then I had to introduce myself to people.
Yeah.
And actually, I think Vic even knew, I was a little hesitant to start talking to people. He was one of the first people to talk to me. So on a Wednesday night.
I think Vic has that gift of just breaking people out of their shells.
Yeah.
He's not shy at all. He'll talk to whoever he needs to talk to, or I think that's great for people that like to evangelize. I struggle with evangelizing. I don't know. It was never a gift of mine. I've always been scared. But I feel like you have that gift of you don't care who it is. It could be a woman at Walmart shopping, and you see something wrong or you feel something, and then you'll start talking to them right away.
I'll give my profession
Yeah.
more of a but
like
you know,
God will use your
Yeah,
yes,
God would
yes,
definitely
yes.
use it.
He definitely has used it.
Yeah.
There'll be times where I'll get a word that comes over to me for someone, or I have to do something, and I don't want to be disobedient, so
Yeah.
I'll do it. And that was really kind of the biggest, like, oh man, I don't, like, my flesh was just like crawling. I was like, but who cares?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, at the end of the day.
Just a thought on evangelism, because some of us are gifted with
Yeah.
evangelism, and
Yeah.
it says that in the Bible that
Mhm.
you know that's the fivefold ministry. Evangelism is one of the five,
Mhm.
but it does also say that we're all called to do the work of evangelist.
Correct.
Yes.
Which
Correct.
means
Yes.
that even though it's hard sometimes,
Yeah.
especially for us introverted people, to reach out and talk to somebody, we have to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think the hardest part is talking to your ex-friends who you used to do
Oh,
all
yeah.
the crazy things with, and now trying to explain to them that you're no longer going that path. You want to go a path with God, and trying to speak to them about Jesus is the hardest thing, because then I feel like a hypocrite at times.
Right.
Like saying, you know, Mike,
Yeah.
I used to drink with them. I used to do these things with them. And now I'm like, hey, I'm no longer doing that. It was always very hard for me to speak to my ex-friends about that.
Yeah.
Yep, that's you're hitting it right on home
Yeah.
right now.
We were just talking about
Yeah,
that.
you
Oh, really?
literally- you were about 30 minutes a little late.
Yeah.
But to go back to community, if any advice for someone that's seeking community and or experiencing turmoil from their past community.
Oh, man. That's a good one. See, when I left my church after 27 years, and nothing against them, I pray for them. I really do hope that they feel good. I just, I left out of anger of something that happened to me, but now that I look at it, it's like God also was calling me to a new chapter in my life, and He brought me to this wonderful church. I think that once you get to a new church, you get scared right away because you just had a wonderful experience for 27 years. You built friends for years. And then to come into a new church and then open yourself up again and trust somebody is the hardest thing in the world. I was grateful to meet people like yourself and Pastor Abby. You guys were so open. And I think that's what it is. You got to overcome that fear first. Number one, that fear, because it is a fear. I don't want to trust another church. I'm just here because I know I'm a Christian, and that's how I felt once I left. I know I'm here. I know I got to get saved. I know I'm going to go to heaven. So I'm just coming to church because I'm coming to church. And I didn't want to open myself up. You know, I was really hurt. And it wasn't anything the church did. It was all my doing. And you know, I exited very badly, which a lot of people do that because they get angry. They think you can blame the pastor or somebody else. No, it's really you. I lost focus of things. But you got to overcome that fear, especially someone leaving from another church to come to this, and just open yourself up and be willing to do whatever it takes to get that community again, to get that brotherhood, to feel that love you had with your boys back in the other church where you can do whatever you.
Is there any wisdom that you could share to someone who is young in their walk with the Lord?
Yeah, listen to mom and dad. You know, I'm grateful for mom and dad. You know, you'd always get mad at them because you're like, I'm going to this party. No, you know, something doesn't feel right. Can you stay home? You don't know. You're crazy. Yeah, listen to mom and dad. Honestly, they know what you're doing. They've been through what you've been through, and now they're having kids. You know it, and you want to say it. But no,
But let's go outside of, you know, not just young as a child,
Okay.
but young as a Christian. Like, so for myself, right?
Okay.
Like, I haven't been saved long, you know, since 2023. So 2
Right.
years I've been saved. You know, as somebody that's young in their walk, obviously everyone's going to backslide in a moment, right?
Correct.
You're going to fall short, but the glory of God is always going to prevail. It's always going to overcome anything that you ever do wrong, right? So what type of advice like that?
Oh man. Sorry.
No, you're good.
You can edit this out. Don't ever think it's easy. I think number one thing is when you get saved, that moment you get saved, it's wonderful, right? You get that happiness. You get that you leave the church saying, I'm a changed man. I'm never going to drink again. I'm never going to smoke again. I'm never going to go to clubs. But no one ever tells you that when you get saved, it is the hardest job in the world because you are going to get attacked, you are going to get persecuted, you are going to get challenged by the devil. Don't lose focus. Take it one day at a time. And that's how you got to do it. Just take one day at a time, knowing that your life is going to change, not dramatically overnight. It's going to take time.
Right.
Like that
The
drinking that
process,
you've been
yeah.
doing, you're not going to get, you have to little by little, you have to just take it one day at a time and believe that God is putting you in the right path. Not you do it on your own will. Because when you start doing things on your own will, it never goes right.
So
You have
good.
to trust God that He is directing you in the right way. And then, of course, comes community that they will help you to get you on that right
Exactly.
path.
Yes.
That's what I was going to say. Like, there's different stories.
Yeah.
Like my father, he was a partier. He drank, he smoked pot, he did everything. He got saved and he instantly turned around.
Yeah.
But then there's other stories of people who had the same lifestyle and it took time.
Yeah.
But, over time, 10 years, I knew, so my dad had friends that got saved and it took them time to completely transform. So 10 years later, they were saved together
Yeah.
and pretty much in the same spot that, my dad's friend was a preacher, my dad was a preacher, and they'd go out street preaching together.
Wow.
But it took time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
God's
Yeah.
timing. All God's timing. Yeah.
It's God's timing, and God's timing is different for everyone.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And also the abuse of one substance, right?
Yeah.
If it's alcohol,
Right.
is different for everyone, right?
Exactly.
Correct.
If we could both have alcohol, but if I depend on it more than you, obviously he's going to cut it
Right.
quicker for me,
Yeah.
so I
Correct.
can still stay on his path
Yeah.
to match up with his timing. So
It is
I am like your father. It was like lights off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The lights turned off, and this new person came out. So
And that's amazing. I love hearing stories like that. Like people, because there's some people that need that cold turkey to change, and I love hearing stories like that. But then you also have to be patient when the ones that take a little bit longer and know that, hey, you got to work with them. You can't be like, hey, you need to stop doing this right now. You let them do it at their own pace.
Yeah,
Yes.
I've found that like just harping on people,
Yeah.
it'll turn them away more
Yeah.
than
yes,
like the Bible tells us to show people love.
Yeah.
yes,
You keep harping on somebody about how they're doing things. You got to talk to them in love, correct them in love.
Correct.
So.
Yeah.
So if we go back to the questions, as a young man, what were some of the challenges that you had in your own faith?
Man, what wasn't? I don't want to say at a young age I didn't struggle that much because I was really involved in church. It all happened, I want to say after 21 when you can start doing,
Yeah.
the legal stuff and all that. But I went through a lot, man. I was married before. We dated for like 8 years and married for 1. But when you're not supposed to be with somebody, but you're just so blinded and so toxic, you just kept going. We have a beautiful daughter together. When she's 16 years old, about to go to college. Great relationship with the mother, and love the new stepfather. Pray for that man every day. But I think that it all happened after 21 was my biggest struggle because I got divorced. And after you go through divorce, you go through this depression. You start thinking that it is your fault now that you're not seeing your daughter. So you just get deeper and deeper. So it got to divorce, depression, and then suicidal thoughts. Because I said, what good am I? She got remarried, has an amazing man. Why does she need a father like me that can't get nothing together? Because then after I started thinking that, I got a DUI. So after my DUI, it just going downhill. And through all that time, I tell God, I get angry at him, and I'm like, why are you doing this to me? I literally been in church since I was 13 years old. I served in every ministry that you could possibly think of in that church. I've done everything you ask me, and then you put me through all this crap. Like, I get so mad at him. And then when I get mad at him, I leave the church because I think it's him. It's his fault that he made me go through this, when in reality it was me. And then when I realize that, because it takes me time, because I'm a knucklehead and it just takes me a little bit of time, I come back because I know I need him. I know that it's I have to go back. And then here's the thing. A lot of people are like, what do I got to do? What do I got to do? Literally fall on your knees and say, I'm sorry.
Right.
And he
Yes.
welcomes you back.
Exactly.
Yes.
People want to overthink it and think, oh, I got to do this. No, just literally fall on your knees.
There's no 10-step plan
No,
to get back to
exactly.
Christ.
Fall on your
It's
knees.
just say, I'm sorry.
Exactly, exactly. So,
And, I will say, like you said, you were a knucklehead, but that's a trick of the enemy to make
Yeah.
you blame God for everything
Yes.
that's happening in your life.
correct.
So he just shifts your focus a little bit, and that's how he gets your eyes off of Jesus.
Yeah.
It's just like when Peter was walking on the water. When Jesus was walking on water, Peter said, come. Peter shifted his focus just a teeny little bit, and he started sinking.
Yeah,
And all he had to do was put his eyes back on Jesus, and God
Yeah.
lifted him up. So
that's very true. Very, very true.
Very good. So, obviously, you're married now.
Yeah.
So you got remarried. I met all your daughters, or except, sorry, I didn't meet the first one.
Yeah.
But your two beautiful girls I've already met.
Yep.
Kind of walk us through that. How did you end up? Like, what was the duration of time? How did you end up meeting your
So
wife?
after that divorce and the whole depression, suicidal, DUI, my life just went into a whole. I didn't care. I didn't care about life. I didn't care about love. I said I'll never get married. I'll never have another kid. I went through a spell of just having friends with benefits. I didn't want a relationship because I didn't want to open my heart again, and so I did that for years, man, for years, and I just was so angry at love, so angry at God, so angry at everything, and it never came because I never forgave myself, and that's what has to happen first. You have to forgive yourself, and then once you forgive yourself for what you've done, you have to love God. And once you love God so much, that's when He puts the woman of your life in your path. And that's what I did. I forgave myself for everything that I've done in the past. And then I got back in church and started loving God again and just, focusing on Him. And He said, you're ready. And then He just wasn't even looking. And He just threw my wife in my path. And it just happened. And then, 8 years later now, we're 9 years together, 8 years married. Two beautiful girls and one more baby along the way, which I
Congratulations.
Still don't, thank you. Which I still don't know what sex it is, and she's making me go crazy about it.
Oh, I thought it was already confirmed.
No, we don't know, man. This last one, she said we're waiting till it's. I'm like, oh Jesus.
Oh man, so you're going down to that.
Yeah, and
to the wire.
There's only two boys in the whole family that have our last name. So my cousin is the other one, and he's already had two girls. So in order for the last Loja names to continue, one of us has to have a boy. So I'm like, Lord, just give me a boy.
All right, Lord, you heard it.
Right?
You hear it.
So and then, once we got pregnant, I was like, yes. And then she's like, we're going to wait till the baby's born to find out the sex. I'm like, I just got depressed and sad. I was like, all right, whatever.
But it is fun to at least do one
It is,
of those,
it-
right?
Yeah.
Because that's very traditional. Now it's like we have
Yeah.
all this technology. It's like you could find out like what was it as early as like 14 weeks or
Yeah,
something.
very early.
It's
very early.
before you even could tell people that hey, I'm officially pregnant. You already know.
Yeah.
The gender.
I want to go back to what you said about forgiving yourself.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure there are a lot of people out there who think, well, you can just say you have to forgive yourself. It doesn't always just come easy.
No.
I think being able to forgive yourself comes through grace, His grace. Give
Agreed.
yourself a little grace because He gave you grace.
Yeah.
Forgive yourself because He forgave you.
Correct.
Correct.
And that's the hardest part. And that doesn't happen overnight, forgiving
No,
yourself.
for sure.
Oh, man, it takes time. And then the devil puts in your head, remember you did this, knucklehead?
Right.
And I'm like, oh, yeah, that's right. And then you just got to say, no, devil, not tonight, not today. That's over. God forgave me. I move on from that.
Yeah. I never lived a life like full of addiction, and I didn't do a lot of things, but I made a lot of mistakes in my life. And in the last 4 or 5 years, I've been pretty dedicated to Christ and following, but even now, still, you wake up in the morning, oh, you remember when you did this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How can you be doing something like this where you're trying to lead other men to Christ or help encourage other men when you did this? And you just have to pray that away.
It's at a point where it's happening to me. I'm like, you know what? Go take a seat over there and watch what God does with me.
There you go.
Right. Amen.
I'm covered by the blood. Watch what He's gonna do,
Yeah.
and what you couldn't, stop.
Right.
So,
Yeah. Good. That's good.
all right. So, as your brother, as your friend, I know a little bit more in depth about some of the things that happen in your life, especially with your own well-being. Are you willing to share that?
Yeah.
So I know you had a scare.
Yeah.
Right? A pretty serious scare.
Pretty serious
during
scare.
COVID.
Yeah.
Can you walk us through that?
Yeah. So, we talked earlier about how I went through everything that I went through. Divorce, suicidal thoughts, depression, then I got a DUI, then you turn your life around, then God puts a beautiful woman in your life, then you have kids and you're like, everything's going good, and then comes the brain tumor.
Mhm.
And you're like, God, why are we doing this? Why am I going through this? And it wasn't until I actually got my brain tumor that I realized, and this is what I believe in. If people want to say no, then I'm like, believe whatever you want to believe. This is what I want to believe in. I went through what I went through for God to teach me, God prepared me to help men that go through this. So a man that's a Christian that's going through divorce and think that life is over, it ain't. It ain't. Divorce is not something we want to say that it's Christian, but it happens.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to give those men hope that there's such thing. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. Okay,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
if you got divorced, get divorced, and that's fine. You had to do what you had to do, but God will give you something else when you're ready. Don't
Yes.
think that you're just
Yes.
gonna go get married
Yes.
the next day or find
Yes.
someone else. No. So I truly believe that. Hey, I got one of my good friends that he's a father that's going through all this right now, and he looks at me and he's like, "How do you do it?" I'm like, God. But then I talk about how I feel. So I feel like everything that I went through in my life. So if it's DUI, hey, Christians, as a Christian, I drank. As a Christian, I had a DUI, but there is a light at the end of the tunnel as well. You can get over this addiction, or you can get over this. So then when I got my tumor, I was like, here we go again, right, God? And then I was like, is this what's going to happen? Is this another lesson for me to help another person that's going through this, that has a major issue or major health scare? Is this what I'm preparing myself for? And that's what I truly believe, that I went through this to help somebody.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it helped me out so much. We found out it was July 4th. I remember this very clearly because I think it was like 3 or 4 years ago, I think. July 4th, and we were at my mother-in-law's house, and it was a very hot day. And I had my baby, the one that's 5 now. She was maybe 6 months. And it got really hot, and I picked her up, and then I just like fainted, but held her up. Like you get that father instinct, and you just held the
Yeah.
baby up no matter what. And they came out, and they're like, "You okay?" I'm like, "I don't know. It's just so weird." And then we split times, holidays, one family, the other family. So we went up to my mom's house, and just sitting down, I fainted again, and they took me to the hospital, and that's when they found the brain tumor. And right then and there, the doctor said, "All right, this is what we're gonna do. It's gonna take 12 hours. We're gonna cut into here, and then get this way deep, and then you'll come in 2 weeks, and then do another 6 hours of cutting, and take the brain, and then take the tumor out. You'll be dead in this year." And if we nick something small, you might be eating the rest of your life from a tube. And I'm like,
Oh my gosh.
I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
What? And thank God for my wife. And at this time, I was heavily medicated. She's like, absolutely not. We're not doing that. And she prayed about it. She said, I'm going to seek a different opinion. At that time, I'm very prideful. I've never asked people for money. I've never done GoFundMe's. I always thought, no, I've always had it. We've always had it. God has provided and blessed us a lot. But at that time, it was COVID. We just lost our jobs. Everybody was let go. So the insurance cut off. So we had no insurance. The doctor came and said this surgery was going to cost about $500,000. Like, you don't have $5,000 to drop.
Right.
So my sister-in-law started to GoFundMe, and then they started doing raffles. And one of the raffles was at a local restaurant by the house. And we went there, and I wasn't feeling the greatest, but my wife helped me out. And it so happens that there was a Christian doctor that was there that night. And she went there every day of that year because a family member died, and they celebrated by going golfing, and they go to that restaurant. So it happens that she's there. She was hearing my story. She called us over, and she's like, hey, listen, I treat this, but in a different manner. And it's not covered through insurance at all. So she's like, come by and look at us and look us up. And we went, and it was the best thing that ever happened to us. As of right now, I am 100%, all bills are paid by the grace of God. We owe nothing to nothing there. People blessed us. That doctor helped us all different type of medicines, not nothing with therapy or
chemotherapy or radiation.
chemo, nothing like that. We did a whole alternative thing, and everything was paid for.
No surgeries.
No surgeries whatsoever. Wow. The last time I went to the doctor looked at the last scan, and he's like, "I've never seen this before, but your tumor is shrinking. How is that happening?" And then I looked at him. I was like, "God."
Yeah.
God. And they don't like hearing that because they're doctors. You know?
Right.
They don't believe
Yeah.
that. They want to believe that their medicine is doing all the work.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. And with my brain tumor came seeds of hope. And I think that was where God was taking me. Yes.
But sorry,
Yeah,
so
go
not
ahead.
before we get into Seeds of Hope, because Seeds of Hope, we got to expand on it more. But to go back to what you were saying about the doctor, that she was happened to be there.
Yeah.
Like that's God.
Yeah, no, yeah,
That's
yeah.
His divine power of lining up people just like you and your family were walking down the sidewalk.
Yeah.
And someone came out to pray for you guys to be able to go back. So God's favor in His hand has been over your life and your family's life
Yeah.
since the beginning of time. Before you even knew of this world, He knew you.
Right.
Yeah.
So
And
he did start up a company, which he's going to go into if you already
Yeah.
haven't seen this wonderful
Seeds of
shirt.
Hope, yeah.
Seeds of Hope. So how did that start up?
Before I get into Seeds of Hope, I just wanted to say that I think the biggest thing for me, and every time they play this song in church where he said, when they talk about He's not done with you yet,
Right.
it hits home.
Yeah.
It hits home because through everything that I've gone through, I always think, all right, Lord, I know I preached at the age of 14, but I lost my way, and look at me, I'm not preaching no more. But then it hits you when he starts Seeds of Hope. I'm not done with you. You're doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Or when I got my DUI, but then I got another great job that still requires you to drive. I'm not done with you yet. Yeah. So I think men need to learn that He's not done with you guys. Yes, we messed up. Yes, we done stupid things. Yes, maybe we got divorced. Yes, we're an alcoholic. But your story's not done, man.
Yeah.
Your story has just begun. There's more to this than what you're doing. Don't sit in the backgrounds. Just get up and do something, because he's going to use you. He's going to definitely use you.
That resonates with me because, so, when we came to New Life, I was doing a lot of ministry in the church that I was in that just closed, and they were actually like talking to me about becoming an elder, and it all ended. The church closed, so I was like, now what do I do? I'm 57. I'm not gonna be able to do much. Who's going to want to use a 57-year-old man? And then I have my phone's recording this right now, but I could show you in my notes on a certain day. It was here at New Life, and it was kind of a spontaneous. They were doing a different song, and then the worship leader just started singing, He's not done with me yet.
Doesn't it hit home? I'm getting chills now because I think about it. It's just, it's beautiful.
Down into my heart. So I grabbed my phone right there and I said, on this, actually I remember now, it was a few months later. It was on my birthday, which is May 19th. I said, on May 19th, 2024, God told me that He's not done with me yet.
And even at 56, I mean, you think that's old, but it's not. We're just starting in our prime.
Exactly.
It's a beautiful age, and the fact that you're doing what you're doing at 56. Yeah. There's some kids that are doing this at 18, 19, but they're starting younger, but you're at where you're at, and you're still going to grow, and God's still going to use you.
God started using Moses when he was 80.
There you go. Yeah.
It's His timing.
Yeah.
Again, goes back to it.
Yeah.
But, when he was saying earlier about divorce, alcoholic, if you're someone that's just watching this and, you're struggling with those things and you're maybe lukewarm in your faith and you don't know, I was exactly that. I'm a divorcee, right? I've been divorced before. I made plenty of mistakes. I was an abuser of drugs when I was younger that just turned to alcohol when I was older. Mm-hmm. And I was hiding it. I was hiding the worldly things that I had no control over, that the world makes you think you do, right? And all the pressures of it, of trying to afford a home, pay all your bills, succeed in jobs, and put all these other idols that I did not idol the right one. And I continued to try to do it on my own, and I couldn't, and I fell. And as soon as I walked through to church, and Jesus met me there, and I mean, it's life-changing.
Yeah. now I don't even do things on my own. I'm like, nah,
No,
you know
no.
it's not gonna work out well.
No, it's. I'll stay put until you tell me to go.
Exactly,
Because
exactly.
I've made too many mistakes, but as I can continue to make mistakes, we can continue to make
Oh, yeah.
mistakes,
Yeah,
but we're gonna be okay, right? Because we just need to get down and repent and apologize and ask for forgiveness, and He's gonna be right back there to pick us up.
yeah.
But to go back into Seeds of Hope,
Seeds of Hope, yes. So Seeds of Hope started. I got better after the tumor shrank, and my cousin was going to Colombia and with his wife and two other people, and one of the guys pulled out, and he called and he said, "Hey, do you want to go? You and your wife and the kids?" And that was COVID time, so my wife's like, "I don't want to put a mask on the girls and travel on a plane for hours." She's like, "You go." I said, "Oh, I don't want to go without you." She's like, "No, you're getting better now. Go enjoy a vacation before you come back and you start working again and getting back to your normal life." I'm like, "Are you sure?" I fought it because I didn't want to leave my wife. So I ended up going, and it was life changing. Everywhere we went, 'cause we walked most of the everywhere we went, and every single, I kid you not, everywhere were little small kids, 2 or 3 years old, asking for money, not in school, and this was school time, selling stuff, and just and it broke my heart. Being a father at that time, my daughter was maybe 2, the youngest one, and I looked at her, imagining her being on the streets and doing this, and I'm like, oh, this killed me. I cried. I went back to the hotel and I just cried, and we met we knew, but we finally met a guy that was, every year they do a activity for a week before Christmas where they raise money and they give Christmas presents to all the homeless kids in there, and then they do a big event where they dress up and they clothe them, they feed them, they have medical people to take care of them. So it's just a big event, and we're like, I want to be a part of that. Like, how can I get back to the community? More than anything, how do I get back? Because children are my heart. Like, I love kids, and I wanted to get back to that. So we came back, and I reached out to all my friends and all the companies I used to work for, and hey, I'm doing this, can you want to donate? And they did, and then we donated. And then the following year, I was like, I want to go bigger. How do I do this? And I said, I talking to my cousin, who he's part of now with Seeds of Hope. He's like he's my Aaron. I'm Moses and he's my Aaron.
Gotcha.
I'm not a much talker anymore, and he's my talker. And mostly people that we speak to are South American pastors. So my Spanish, I can speak Spanish, but he speaks way better. So I go back and I let him do all the talking. But amazing guy. I love my cousin. So I said, you know what? I'm gonna throw a concert. I said, who is hot? And at that time, it was Maverick City Musica, which is the Spanish version. I said, I'm gonna reach out to these people and I'm gonna do a concert. Man, I was so dumb. There is not just like, I'm going to throw a concert. There's no such thing as that. There is so much more to just say, I'm going to throw a concert than throwing a concert. And I learned the hard way. I learned the hard way very well. But it was very successful. We did an event. So we did what Seeds of Hope does now is we do benefit Christian concerts.
okay,
And with all the money that we raise from ticket sales, we will find a pastor. Now we do our diligence and we search who this pastor is, what he's been doing, because we don't just send money out to anybody.
yes,
Some people will be like, well, where's my money going? Like, what am I giving you? And then they get scared, and sometimes people do scam. So we do our diligence to find out who we're giving the money to. But once we raise all the money, we'll send it to, so we helped out Colombia, we helped out Uruguay, and we helped out Venezuela. We had 3 concerts already. We'll give it to that pastor, and then they do that. We pay for that whole one-day event where we get back to the kids, and they do all that. And at the same time, they talk to them about Jesus, because not only do the kids come, their parents come as well, because they're bringing them to this activity. So then it gives a chance for the people that are doing this to evangelize to the parents and talk to them about Jesus. So that's one of the things that Seeds of Hope does. Yeah.
great.
So,
Yeah.
how did you come up with the name?
My cousin did.
Okay.
My cousin did. He's literally my right hand man. I love it. He just came out with the name, and I was like, love it. Let's do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, he came out. So all right.
I like the name.
We like to be plant a seed into the lives of kids that really need hope. and to tell them that hope is found in Jesus. Because these kids live on the streets and they don't have anything. It's really sad to see. But if we can be that hope to show them that, that's what we love to be.
Yeah, that's great. Any upcoming events?
So yeah, we're working
What do you got
on.
in the future?
We got an event coming up. We're locking down some final things, but our projected day is in August.
Okay.
We're gonna do a concert. We are helping a pastor in Peru that was given to us by a good friend of mine, Loida, which her daughter's Layla. Layla's came here before, New Life, and sang. Loida's a great friend of mine that I've known now for about 2 years, and we've got great friendship. And she told me about this pastor who's doing this amazing thing. So we're gonna do a concert. Our projected date is August 22nd, but it might change because who we're bringing in. Schedule might change a little bit to do the whole worship, but it's going to be one of those worship nights, and it's I think it's needed. Not only is it wonderful to raise this money and give it to the kids and wherever we're sending to, it's a night also to come together, worship, break whatever needs to be broken that night, receive whatever needs to be resolved. If you have to receive healing, if you have to receive whatever, that night, that's what it's there for. And I feel like worship is always the beginning of bringing God's presence into a house or into a service, and that worship breaks through the heavens, and that's what I want. I more than anything, Chicago needs it. We're we're known as a corrupt city. So much violence, so much just devil in this place that we need a night like this, a breakthrough. Chicago is due for revival, man. More than anything, we would love to see a revival happen in this.
Well, I think it's already here.
I think it's
Starting.
Yeah,
it's already here.
Okay. Starting in Elgin for sure.
Oh yeah, it's true, man. Yeah,
That's.
I kid you not. The wife and I, when we come, we're always a little bit late because of the kids. We're gonna blame the kids, but and we're noticing more and more how packed this place is just getting.
Yeah,
and it's just like.
It's because the presence of God is here.
Yeah, and
I felt it the moment I walked in the door.
Same.
So our church closed, and we're like, oh, we got to search for another church. I live 2 miles away from here. I've lived in Elgin for 4 years. When we first moved here, I looked at the website. I'm like, oh, it's a Hispanic church.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was an English church, so I didn't even visit. And then we're like, we're going to be looking for a church for a while, and someone invited me to come here. I'm like,
let's give it.
Do they translate? Because I honestly did not know that it was
Gotcha.
English. As soon as I walked in, this was our second church we visited. I thought we were going to be looking for a while.
You knew.
And I was like, yeah, this is where God was.
So, a little similar like you. My wife is Jewish. But she's, and I always say this wrong, Messianic Jew or
Messianic.
Messianic Jew, right? So they believe in Jesus and all that stuff. But she grew up in I call them like slower churches when it comes to praise and worship. Because here we have a band, we have the drums, we have the guitar. So our worship is faster. People are clapping, people are raising their hands, people are crying. Hers is more like hymns.
Gotcha, yeah.
Okay. So we've always, when we met, we knew about Christ. We knew about Jesus. She was saved and I was saved, but her style was so different than mine. Yeah. We're more, how do you call it? Pentecostal,
charismatic.
There you go. That's the perfect word. We're more charismatic. So when I brought her to my other church, the one that I went to for 27 years, she was like, she just didn't feel right. She understood what we did. She respected. She had a lot of different views. She never really understood how someone can speak in tongues, but yet no one was translating what somebody was speaking in tongues.
Yeah.
Okay, or she never was the type of person to raise her hands up or clap during worship. So everything was a little different for her.
Same with my wife.
Yeah. So then when we came here, and Pastor Abby wasn't even preaching, it was Pastor Ephraim, and we had that the circle time, worship in the center, and we came and that first service, as soon as we left, she says, "This is our church." So when the wife says that, I'm like, that's God.
Yeah.
Because for her to understand, her to like this type of worship, this type of atmosphere was like, this is what I grew up in. This is what I love. This is what I would believe in. I want to clap my hands. I want to raise my hands. She said, "Yep, we're going here." I'm like, done.
Awesome.
Done.
Yeah, it's very similar experience with as both of you guys with mine. As you do the online research, right? You Google the church and you look at the background. You're like, I think this is a Spanish church. And it was one of the first things I said to my wife. And it wasn't as like, oh, I'm not going to go because it's Spanish. But I was like, hey, love, I think this is predominantly Spanish. And she's like, oh, no, I've listened to his sermon. Let's just go. I was like, all right, let's go. So as soon as we walked in, I met Pastor Abbey at the door. His wonderful smile, ear to ear, right? And he shook my hand, and I felt at peace. And I felt comfortable. Everyone was so nice. It wasn't like, I didn't feel like anybody judging or anybody looking at you weird, or everyone was personable. And I sat down, and it's the rest is history of my salvation. But man, it just like a freight train.
Right away.
As soon as worship was going, Coco started singing, and boom, just fed right into me.
And so everybody knows we're very multicultural here in this church.
Yes.
Like we have every race in this church.
Yeah, it's not just Spanish.
Not just
and two white guys.
It's not just Spanish at all. We have everything. But yeah, I think worship here is amazing. Preaching is amazing. And what I was saying about how it's growing, like we don't have a ministry that we go out and evangelize, right? Like we have that ministry on Sundays when they feed the homeless, but like we don't have a ministry that just goes out and evangelize. But to still see the church grow and grow and grow, you're like,
that's because the members are evangelizing.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
And go back to the revival and of how God is moving just in, our community, but in the whole world, and our country is, I was talking to another Christian today who's been, 30 years, 40 years as a Christian, and she was just telling me of how God's grace has been blessing their family like nonstop. And she's seen my story. Like she's known me before I was before I was saved, and she's seen my transformation. And if she doesn't hear from me every week, it's like a little bit of her. It's like, all right, what's happening? What's the next? Like she's loved hearing God just moving in my own life. And I asked her point blank, I said, hey, all of these years of your Christianity, through your walk, have you ever seen God move this much as of recent? And she goes, I haven't. She goes, it never stopped me from believing that he could do it.
True.
Right.
But he's been moving a lot lately. Yeah. And I believe it is for something. And we need to just come together as men, brothers, sisters. We have to rise up for God, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's true.
And
So-
continue to make disciples. Go ahead.
I have a question that I ask every man that comes on the podcast. I didn't prepare you for this one.
Oh.
So you'll be the first person who isn't prepared ahead
All
of
right,
time.
here we go.
So I don't know if you know the story of David at the cave of Adullam. So David was hiding from Saul
Correct.
in the cave of Adullam, and the men in the town, they were disgruntled, disheartened, discouraged. They came to David because Saul wasn't leading them. Saul was chasing David. So they were discouraged. And it doesn't say what David said to these men, but these men ended up becoming David's mighty men. If you know this, how. So if men came to you disheartened, discouraged, looking for leadership, what's the next step? What would you say to them?
I would first tell them to find a church. And here's the thing. I have men like that came up to me, and I always felt unprepared.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? I always, first thing I would do is I would question myself and be like, oh, God, am I really prepared to say anything? Like, what if I say the wrong thing? And then especially if it's one of your good friends that comes up to you and it says, hey, man, I've been through so much. I've been lately going through so much. And then I look at you and you're always happy with your wife. You always seem to have it right. And you always tell me it's God. But what do I do from that point? And then the first thing that comes into mind, be like, oh, man, I just went out with you last week. And even though it was just a social drink, it still makes me, oh, Lord, am I qualified to say this to the guy? That's what, it kills me so much. And then you start thinking it so much, and the devil starts playing with you.
Yep.
And that's the first thing you get scared. But then I overcome it, and then I say, you know what? The best thing that ever happened to me and how my life got turned around is I found a church. Okay? And you don't have to be saved to come to a church. Okay? You go there with all your flaws. Everything you have, every baggage that you have, you go there, give it a try. Don't knock it because you have heard so much about how churches steal. It's all about money. Some are too radical or they're speaking in different languages and it's scary. Don't knock it. Just go there, but go with an open heart.
Right. Exactly.
More than anything, go with an open heart. Because if you're just going there because, oh, Mario told me just to go there and I'm going to give it a try and hear about this God. Go with an open heart and say, once you're there, just to yourself, quietly, you don't have to say it to anybody. Say, all right, God, I'm here.
Right.
What do you have to tell me?
Yep.
What do you have to tell me? Now, don't expect to be like the pastor call you from out there and be like, hey, you, God just told. It could happen. I've seen it happen. But also just be prepared to be like, you might not get called out or God might not shine a light upon you and say, you need to come here.
Yeah.
Just know that if you open your heart and you say, God, okay, where do I go from here? And you get that feeling like you feel relief and you feel a little bit of happiness, He's there.
Just to flip that on its head a little, because I know people will say, well, you don't have to go to church to be saved.
True.
Which I agree with that.
True.
But what we talked about this earlier in this conversation, what you get from church is community.
Correct.
What we're getting right here now is community. We're sharpening each other. We would not know each other if we didn't come to a church.
Correct.
We would not find this kind of friendship and this kind of forgery in a bar among friends or just hanging out with people. We may, especially if they're Christians, but what Christian brothers do is they sharpen each other, and you find that in the church. Now, I've gone to church for over 40 years. I know when you go to church, when you go to, I've been church hurt 40 years, you know what's happened. So when you go to church and you're putting your faith in the man, in the man who's leading the church, you're bound to be disappointed.
Yeah.
Because he's a man, just like we are. The pastor who's leading the church, he has the same issues we have. He's just up on a platform. But when we go past looking at the man, and we look at Jesus, who's leading the man, then we can see. You know, I felt like saying that because I know there's a lot of people who don't go to church because, well, I don't have to go to church to be saved. True. And I agree with that.
True.
But you become a better Christian
Agree.
when you go to church.
Yeah, God lives outside these four walls. For
Absolutely.
sure.
Yes.
For sure. Everybody knows that. But you definitely need this.
Yeah.
You definitely need this.
Yeah, I mean, as much as our voice speaks to each other, our souls do as well.
Yeah.
Right? Anytime I'm away from church for like a vacation trip or X amount of time, like I feel a little bit less, right? And then as soon as I walk through the doors and as soon as I see you guys, I get that revival again, right? Like I get amped up again, feel whole, where I feel like I'm missing something.
This is like food to your soul. You have to eat every day, right?
Absolutely.
If you don't eat, you're gonna get weak or you're gonna die.
Yeah, right.
So the word that's preached here every day is it's food to your soul. So you need that. Yeah, and like you said, after a week of not, you're like, I gotta get back.
I think it's good to take a vacation sometimes.
Yeah, no, you need
Even
it.
like for me, so you might not know my story, but I went on a whole fitness journey.
Okay.
And I got really into eating well. But I would take breaks. I'd take a vacation here. And if I go on vacation, I'm not going to eat.
Cheat
well.
day.
Right. I'm going to, or a cheat week. Cause
Right.
You're going for a week. When I go to Kentucky, my mom, she's a Southern cook.
Oh, it's all fried cooking. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all fried cooking and candy and sweets and you gotta eat. You gotta eat. You're a growing boy.
You're
like,
too skinny, son.
You gotta eat. But so when I'm away for eating good for so long, when I'm away from it,
It's hard.
I start to crave. Believe it or not, I crave the vegetables because I know the vegetables help my body. I think it's the same thing with church. It's okay to take a vacation for a minute. But even when you go on vacation, you still seek Jesus and read the Word. But you do start to miss that sharpening that you get from the church.
Amen.
And it's also discipline in your life.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It really is discipline every day.
Yeah.
Sunday, let's go.
Absolutely.
Sunday, let's go. And it's just, and even when I travel, because I travel a lot for work and sometimes I'm out Sundays, I'll Google a church. I'll be like, all right, let me see. There's some that I'll be like, all right, I'm a little skeptical, but I'll find something. And even if these are small towns that I'm in, and all you got little Catholic churches or little small churches, I'm like, it don't matter. I'm not here for that, man.
Right.
I'm not here for as long as I'm in God's house. I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
do on my own. I'm gonna pray. I'm gonna sing my own songs, and then I'm good.
That's absolutely the
Yeah.
right attitude.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it's just discipline. Discipline yourself on how to do that. Yeah.
All right. Well, I mean, that's pretty much the questions I got wrapped up.
Nice.
So is there a website or something that you
Uh,
have so
as
people
yeah,
can
the
know
work.
about your
So
events?
we're revamping because so people know this too, and people that start something like yourself, you start something. So I started Seeds of Hope, and we had 3 concerts. But in the midst of the concerts, that's when I left my church. I started doing it for the wrong reasons. I started doing it because I wanted to prove to everybody that I didn't need those people. I can do it on my own. So I did the last concert on my own will. It was successful, but I didn't do it for the right reasons.
Gotcha.
I didn't feel good. It was a great event. People got saved. People received what they want to receive. But I had this anger in my life. So when I came here, Pastor Avi told me, take a year off. Fix yourself. So I did. I took a year off, and I wanted to work on me. Because, since I'm spirit heading this thing, I have to fix me first before I can even think about doing something for other people. And it was a struggle. It was a real struggle, but it was needed. It was definitely needed. So I stopped Seeds of Hope for a while, and this is, last event we partnered up with somebody, but this is going to be my first one since coming back. So everything's getting ramped up, and we're doing everything new. But you can follow us on Instagram, Seeds of Hope Chicago, and we put everything there. So if you guys are interested, you can definitely
Okay.
definitely
And
go on.
I'll have the link in the
Yeah,
show
yeah,
notes,
yeah.
so,
We'll give you all that. But
yeah. Awesome. Well,
thank you guys.
Thank you.
I know it's been fun. This is cool.
absolutely. All right.
So I hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as Victor and I did. I mean, Mario is an amazing man, and I hope you go and follow. I'm going to have a link, or at least I'm going to type it in. I don't know how it works on YouTube, but I'm going to put in or go to Instagram and look for Seeds of Hope Chicago and follow his page if you're interested in the ministry that he's doing there. Also, as this is growing and moving forward, I do plan on doing more of this. So one of my goals is to have a testimony every other week or so. So if you know somebody or if you are somebody who has a powerful testimony, you can reach out to me at the Valiant Forge podcast at gmail.com, and we'll have a conversation about it. And, we'll see if we can hook up and do an interview and have you on the stream. Also, as I said earlier, if you like the video, please like it, comment on it, tell me what you think of the interview. If you have any thoughts, concerns, whatever, please comment and share the video with a friend who may get some inspiration out of this. And I'm also going to have on the YouTube video, I'm going to have a link to the podcast, the audio part of the podcast, which you can follow if you want to just listen to it on audio. And then on the audio side, I'll have a link to the YouTube channel, which there will be times on YouTube where I will do videos strictly for YouTube that I'm not going to post in the podcast stream. So if you want to find out what's going on over there, follow us there. And again, leave a review, like, share. The more people that get to know about this, the more we can grow and bring more value to you. Because that's my goal here, is to bring value to you, the listener or watcher, or however you want to call it, viewer. I'm new to all this, and I'm trying to learn all the terms and do all the things. And, I'm just being honest with you. I'm not good at this. I plan to get better. My goal is to grow. I know that the thing is try to get 1% better every video, and that's my goal here. So if you followed me from the beginning, you see that it's getting a little bit better inch by inch. So enough babbling. Stay strong, stay valiant, keep forging your path, and be blessed.